This is Gridiron Graduates, a weekly podcast covering all things football. Episode number 24, A Cold Wind Blows. Recorded December 2nd, 2015.
Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us once again on another edition of the Gridiron Graduates. I'm your man, Bill Rossetti, joining you as always. And my partner on the other side, of course, Mr. Ian Wharton. Ian, what is going on, my friend?
Oh, man, things are good. I'm doing well. Appreciate it. Of course, we're winding down here in the season. We've got just one championship weekend left for college football and then bowl games. And then we've got just about a little bit over a month here for NFL season. So it's that time of year, man. That's where it's a bittersweet time of the year because the best games of the year are being played. But we don't have too much left, so just kind of gripping that reality.
Yeah, I can't believe how fast the season's gone. I mean, it's already December. You know, how fast this time went. I mean, we started this podcast back in June, so it's already been almost 7 months for us. It's crazy how fast this went. So in a few weeks we'll be talking draft and going through another long off season without football. So enjoy it while we can. But yeah, like Ian said, championship week this week. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started with that because the college football ranks, of course, came out again this week. The next to last set, actually, before the final weekend. And then the final ranks come out on Sunday. So we'll kind of talk about where we stand now and some of the possibilities. So, of course, Clemson still sitting at number 1. They're getting set for the ACC championship against North Carolina. Alabama at 2. They take on Florida for the SEC championship. Oklahoma at 3. They've already clinched the Big 12. Their season's done. And then you've got Iowa at 4. And then the first team out is Michigan State at 5. And, of course, those two play each other. And then there's the Buckeyes sitting at number 6, lying in wait for something to mess up and for them to sneak back into the playoffs. And then Stanford, of course, plays for the Pac-12 title. They're sitting, I believe, at 7 or 9. No, that's right. Yeah, they're at 7.
I think it's 7, yeah.
Yeah, Florida State's at 9, and Notre Dame's at 8, and then you've got North Carolina at 10. So let's talk what could possibly happen. I think we're both in agreement that 2 of the spots are pretty set. I think we're pretty sure that Oklahoma is going to be one of the playoff teams, and I think we're pretty sure whoever wins the Big Ten is going to be one of the playoff teams. Would you agree there?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So now it's a matter of those other 2 spots. Obviously, if Clemson and Alabama win, they're in. So let's talk about what happens if they possibly lose. Let's say North Carolina beats Clemson. We talked about this possibility last week. North Carolina, if they were to beat NC State, which they did, and beat Clemson, can they get into the playoff? Well, now we see where they're ranked at number 10. That's going to be a really high jump for them to make, to go from 10 to 4 if they beat Clemson. Do they still have any shot, knowing now that they sit at number 10 and have to jump 6 spots to get to the playoff?
I think they have a chance, but it's a long shot. They need a lot of help. And it's hard because there's not that many games being played. I suppose they need every favorite to lose. So you probably need Michigan State to win. I think you need Florida to beat Alabama, and they need to beat Clemson, which is going to be a task in itself. But I think they have a chance, and especially if they can beat the snot out of Clemson. I mean, I think they're going to be a hard team to keep out because even if Alabama wins, I think they're a good team. I mean, like I said, I think over the last month and a half or so, they've been a top 10 team without a doubt. And this time of the year, I mean, I'd rather see them in over Stanford. And if USC beats Stanford, that's another big thing that'll help them. Mm-hmm. I think they have a chance just because last year how we saw Ohio State jump the 2 Big 12 teams. And even though, coming off of a bye week, they've jumped those two teams. So, I think it's possible. You just never know. I think they deserve a chance. They deserve that chance if they win, but it's not as likely as I think maybe it was, as we talked about last week. I was a little disappointed to see how low they were ranked.
And then we mentioned your Buckeyes sitting at number 6. They probably need either Clemson or Alabama to lose. And the question is, can they still get in? Like, say one of those two loses, and say even Stanford wins. Because now you compare a 2-loss Pac-12 champion Stanford, who beat Notre Dame. They have a conference championship. Versus a 1-loss Ohio State team that, of course, didn't even play in the Big Ten title game. What are their chances?
I like their chances. They need Michigan State to beat Iowa to take care of any type of debate where it may be, if Iowa beats Michigan State, well, then you have a debate between, Michigan State beat Ohio State. So, that you don't want that discussion if you're Ohio State. You definitely want Michigan State to win, and then because that'll take care of Iowa, and then you also want USC to beat Stanford just in case. I don't think that's going to be. Honestly, I think Ohio State makes it in over Stanford, regardless if it's between the two. Just because again, you've got the defending champion. You've got again, it's not a 2-loss team entering the playoff. I think that'd just be too much controversy. I don't think they'd go that route. But then they definitely need either Alabama or Clemson to lose as well. So, and again, I think those odds aren't good, especially for Florida to beat Bama. But UNC, Clemson, there's a decent chance there. So Ohio State has an okay chance. I mean, do they deserve it? I mean, they could have beaten Michigan State at home. So I don't think you can sit here and I know some people are complaining about Alabama being top 5, and maybe so. I mean, a loss is a loss, no matter when it comes. You're definitely rewarded in college football if you lose early, which I'm not sure I agree with. I think a loss is a loss regardless. Alabama really hasn't played anybody this year, and the only team with a good quarterback they played, they lost to. So, it is what it is, though, and I think Ohio State will end up being on the outside looking in, though. And then I think they may play Stanford, if I'm correct. When I was looking at the bowl projections, so they would go to the Rose Bowl and play Stanford.
They very well could. The Rose Bowl could certainly take Ohio State over whoever loses the Big Ten championship and pit them against Stanford. I think they'll just give it to whoever loses between Iowa and Michigan State, but it certainly could be, even if, say, Ohio State finishes ahead of whoever loses, which I think is going to be Iowa. I think Sparty beats Iowa for the Big Ten and gets in the playoffs. So say, comparing Iowa to Ohio State may finish ranked ahead of Iowa and may get the spot. Now Iowa will still get a New Year's Six bowl. I think you're pretty much looking at 3 Big Ten teams among the New Year's Six. You're going to have the champion in the playoff. You'll have a team in the Rose Bowl. And then you'll have someone playing in either the Fiesta or the Peach Bowl.
It's an amazing reversal of what the opinion was a couple of years ago.
Yeah. We were sitting here talking, Big Ten is one of the worst Power 5 conferences. Now they're going to be among we'll say the heaviest conferences among the New Year's Six.
Yeah, one of the most well represented, yeah.
That's a good way to put it, yeah, well represented. Because you're going to have 3 teams playing in there, while the SEC might only have 2.
Yeah.
Yep. You'll probably have Alabama, because let's say Alabama wins, they'll play in the playoff, and then probably just Ole Miss getting into the Sugar Bowl, because with the way Florida dropped in the rankings, and how high Mississippi is now, the Rebels are probably going to get that Sugar Bowl spot unless Florida beats Alabama. Because if Florida beats Alabama, I don't think you have an SEC team in the playoff.
No.
I don't know if you're going to put a 2-loss Alabama team, which, as you mentioned, doesn't. I mean, they have a couple top 25 wins, but the public eye is going to still say, oh, well, they haven't played anybody.
Yeah, no, there's no chance. I mean, you lose this weekend, you're not making the playoff. That's for sure. There's just and like you said, because basically there's two teams with their tickets punched, so it's very difficult to all of a sudden try to fit in. You've got four teams that has a decent argument to get in, depending on how this weekend goes. So it's just there's absolutely no chance that a two-loss Bama would make it in.
So yeah, it's going to be very fun to watch. And then another game of note is Houston taking on Temple. I want to touch on this quick too. Houston against Temple in the first ever American Athletic Championship game. So a little bit of history here for these teams. And this game is pretty much for the New Year's Six spot. Because both teams are in the top 25, and obviously whoever wins is going to come out on top of the other. And I mean, Navy's still hanging around in the top 25, but Houston just beat Navy. So for all intents and purposes, this is essentially a play-in game for, say, the Fiesta Bowl or the Peach Bowl.
I'm really rooting for UH. Obviously, I went to school there. It's really incredible. I wish I wouldn't have missed that by a year, and if I still lived there, obviously I'd be going to all the games. But yeah, really, really happy to see them doing well. I hope they can win this game, and I'd love to see them on the big stage. It's really fun to see these pop-up teams just kind of come out of nowhere. Obviously, Boise State's the popular team that we all know and are familiar with. But I think UH can go to the Fiesta Bowl, and regardless who they play, unless if they end up playing a team like Bama, I think they're going to have a pretty good shot at winning a game. They're not the most talented team, but they're a lot of fun. They're really well coached. A shootout between them and North Carolina, which I don't know if North Carolina is even possible to go. I'm just kind of speculating here based off of matchups, but I think that'd be an amazing matchup. If we could somehow get that, football gods, we would love you forever.
I actually did a run of the bowl projections using the current rankings.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina is actually the first team out of the New Year's Six.
Oh.
Yeah, the last at-large team right now is actually Florida State at 9.
Oh, that'd be a shame. I don't think they're as fun to watch as North Carolina.
No, definitely not. I think North Carolina would be fun to see, especially after the turnaround they've had after week 1. And, I mean, yeah, the South Carolina loss looks bad after how bad they've played. And, sure, they played 2 FCS teams, but, you shouldn't really punish them. I mean, yeah, strength of schedule is going to be an issue, but, I mean, they're still playing outstanding. You don't just waltz in and win, 10 straight games in football. It just doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
So,
especially with a quarterback that last year was playing running back, wide receiver. Greg Ward played a little bit of quarterback, but he was mostly just a runner with John O'Korn. And then eventually they just benched John O'Korn because he was so bad, and he had to transfer to Michigan. But yeah, it's just really fascinating to see that change of head coach immediately. The former 4-star quarterback is transfer. I think he was a 4-star quarterback. He transfers over to Michigan, sits on the bench all year, and then because he's redshirting or whatever. And then Greg Ward, who doesn't look any part of a quarterback. Guy's probably 5'10", 5'11", 180 pounds, dripping wet. Just out there running all over everybody, making big time passes. I mean, he is truly tremendous to watch. And last week, I didn't watch Navy against UH yet. I know the result, obviously, but the 2 quarterbacks in that game are really fun players, Keenan Reynolds and Greg Ward. So if you do catch a replay of that game, or if you saw it live, I'm sure you really enjoyed it.
So, again, we'll see what happens as the things play out. It certainly would be interesting to see a team like Houston play maybe Ohio State. What if that happens? If they pit Ohio State against Houston?
I think that's a bad matchup for Houston. I just don't think they'd have any chance of stopping Ezekiel Elliott. That's where, I mean, Ohio State's kind of like Bama right now, where it's very difficult to overcome that power, unless if Ohio State, gets in their own way, which happened with Michigan State. So I don't like that matchup for UH. I don't think that game would be too close. And part of it is just UH is just very small on the defensive side of the ball. You'll see that with mid-major teams, or non-power 6 or whatever they're calling it. Generally, the size of players is the big difference. Not necessarily talent; it's just size.
Right. And speaking of bowls, we're actually starting to fill in the bowl schedule already. One bowl matchup is actually already set. It will be Western Michigan against Middle Tennessee in the Bahamas Bowl. And BYU is going to be playing in the Las Vegas Bowl. So I don't know how familiar you are with those teams this year.
Not terribly. I know Western Kentucky has 2 good NFL prospect receivers, especially Corey Davis. He's probably going to be a second or third, maybe fourth rounder. He'll be a steal if he lasts in like that third, fourth round range. I really like him. But in general, though, I'm not terribly familiar with the teams that usually announce pretty early.
Yeah.
Generally they're just taking a bowl just so that they can make sure they can get in one.
Right. That's true. Yeah. They.
But yeah, I mean, they're all fun games. I mean, sometimes those are the best games.
Yeah.
I know last year that's how I had ended up watching a couple teams I hadn't watched all year, and I think Western Michigan was one of them. Even if I'm trying to remember correctly.
Yeah, didn't they have that crazy lateral?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or
was that Central Michigan?
I can't remember, but I end up watching.
One of the Michigans that had like that crazy set of laterals at the end of the game.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I lost on a 2-point conversion.
Yeah. So I mean, you just never know with these games. You never know.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely, bowl season is definitely fun. It's going to be interesting, though. We talked about this before. The 5 and 7 teams that are going to make it. And the NCAA finally decided how they're going to sort out the 5 and 7 teams, and they're going to use APR to prioritize the 5 and 7 teams. So that basically means Nebraska's going bowling because they have the highest APR among the 5 and 7 teams. And they have not said that they're going to decline a bowl bid, being 5 and 7. So I think we could say Nebraska is going to get in. Missouri has said they will not go bowling. But Nebraska looks like they're going to be in. Kansas State looks like they're going to be in, win or lose. I mean, they haven't said if they would decline at 5 and 7. But it looks like they're in either way. And then maybe possibly a team like San Jose State might get in at 5 and 7. Now, of course, there's still a chance we could get 3 more teams to 6 wins. Kansas State can still get to 6 wins. Georgia State can still get to 6, and South Alabama can still get to 6. But the latter two have pretty tough matchups this week to get to that 6th win. So we'll see what happens. So we're guaranteed 2 5 and 7 teams. Could have as many as 5. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they deal with the 5 and 7 teams, where they put them, do they match any of them against each other. So we'll see what happens. And then another bit of news from college. Mark Richt spent a very short time on the unemployment line as a coach, as he's quickly nabbed up by the University of Miami. And I know you talked a little bit about it on Twitter, how you're not exactly in full support of this move. So what were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I just, Mark Richt, he's a good coach. I think it's just, this is a guy that had top 5 recruiting classes a lot at Georgia. And he had some dynamite talent there. Matt Stafford, A.J. Green, Nick Chubb, Todd Gurley. I mean, Justin Houston. He had a lot of good talent there at Georgia. But he never got the job done. He never made it to the college football final. Obviously, he wasn't there that long as far as the playoffs. I mean, you can't really judge him for that. But he struggled getting quarterbacks since DJ Shockley and Matt Stafford, and it was just a constant issue with him. Like, they would get to this point in the season where all they've got to do is beat like one or two teams, and then they're in. They're into a major bowl, and his teams never got it done. And he hired some very questionable coordinators, including Brian Schottenheimer recently. And I know he talked about apparently he might be handling the offense himself now at Miami. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad hire. He's better than what they had. I think he's kind of a safe hire. He's a good name. He's got a good reputation. Miami has no problems recruiting. I mean, that's the thing though. Is like they hired a recruiter, but they didn't need a recruiter. I thought they needed a tactician, someone who's a little bit stronger X's and O's wise. I think Tom Herman would have been a great coach there. I think Justin Fuente would have been a great coach there. Even Dino Babers from Bowling Green. I think that would have been a tremendous hire. All of a sudden, though, again, I think Richt is good. What I'm concerned with him is, are you going to be stuck winning 9, maybe 10 games every year? And then that's it. Because, I'll tell you this right now, as an Ohio State fan, as a fan of another power team, at some point you've got to take the next step. And Georgia never took the next step. And you can point to Nick Saban all you want, and you can say, well, you had to deal with him. Well, boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. Now he's got to deal with Jimbo Fisher. He's got to deal with
Sabo Sweeney.
Yep, Sweeney. They've got some other good coaches there. The Duke head coach, Cutcliffe, he's another good coach. There's going to be a lot of competition there. And I get that they're not Nick Saban, but you're also not going to be afforded the same luxuries at Georgia as you were at Miami. That's a big issue at Miami, too. You don't have a great amount of resources and funding available there, and you're also dealing with some academic limitations as well. So, again, it's not a bad hire. I don't think it's a bad hire. I think it's a nice hire. I just don't know if it was the best hire.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
It's just, and I don't know about what you think, but it just seems weird to say too. Mark Richt, Miami, Florida head coach.
It is weird. It is weird because we basically grew up watching Richt at Georgia. Yeah. It feels like he's been there forever.
Yeah, I literally don't remember. I'm 24.
I can't even tell you who the coach at Georgia was before Richt. I really can't.
No.
Not off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird to think about.
That's the beauty of college football. Like we grow up, we're both 24, like you said. We grew up and we're so used to like some of these coaches at these same schools for so long. Me coming, growing up at Penn State, obviously.
Yep.
The only coach I knew until around 2011 was Joe Paterno. I never imagined a world without Joe Paterno as head coach at Penn State. Now they're on their second head coach in 4 years since Joe Pa. And I've told you this before. I can't really discredit Bill O'Brien for leaving Penn State because NFL head coaching jobs come. How often do they really come? Not that much.
Right.
So for him to, you have to consider an NFL coaching job, and when it's offered to you, you almost have to take it. So good for him. Now we're at James Franklin, so it's a little bit of turnover. But yeah, a lot of these schools, it's like you see the same coaches for like so long. So like Richt is one of them. Like I said, for the longest time, I'd always known him as head coach of Georgia. Even like in college basketball, it's the same thing. Like, you just name a coach and you just immediately associate the school with him. Mark Few is a perfect example. He's been at Gonzaga for, feels like forever. But then Rick Barnes is like an example of, we've seen him with the school for so long at Texas. Now we got to get used to saying Rick Barnes, head coach Tennessee. So it's going to be really weird. It's going to take some getting used to for sure. As we started off to say, Mark Richt, head coach at Miami. But maybe who knows? Maybe a change of scenery will do him good. But yeah, so That's a good bit of college talk, I think, for now. Let's jump up to the pros. So, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it's good. It's good. Watched some games. I mean, obviously the games weren't great
No.
last week. That was kind of unfortunate, but no, it was a good time. Definitely, saw some family, and I live now in the area of where a lot of my family is, so
That's good.
it's kind of a nice thing, a little bit different thing. We didn't have to travel for a holiday, which is super nice. So,
Yeah.
how about yourself, though?
It went well. I survived the Black Friday rush.
Yeah, it's we had a great Black Friday, but I was not on your end. Ran into a lot of tired, exhausted employees. I know that some people we had talked to were out since like 6 p.m. the previous night, and we didn't go that early. I mean, we left at like 8 a.m. on Friday morning. But yeah, I mean, some of these poor people were out 12, 14, 20 hours, and bless you people.
Yeah,
If you're
God
listening to
bless
this
you
and
guys.
if you're a retail employee, bless you.
I'll tell you what, though. I had to go in for 7 a.m. Black Friday morning. I was actually surprised at how slow it was at that time of the day. I thought, as soon as I walked in, it was going to be slammed. But we didn't really get hit till about maybe 9:30.
Oh, okay. So you guys were like the second and third stop for people.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, Walmart's not that far from us, so, you had that hit up. But I think Walmart was closed overnight for a few hours, whereas we weren't. We stayed
Interesting.
open right from Thanksgiving night through Black Friday morning and onward. So, but we got, like I said, once we got hit, we got pretty well hit. So it turned out to be a fun day. But yeah, as far as Thanksgiving went, it went well. Got to see a little bit of the games. Obviously, didn't get to see all of them, but caught a little bit of the Eagles-Lions game, and obviously that turned out to be a very ugly game.
Yeah, jeez.
Um,
Are you worried that? I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the season with it? I mean, the Eagles are almost out of it. So
yeah, I just can't believe that after all this, they're still just one game out of the division. Like
that's
when
insane.
as the Sunday scores are coming in, and I see the Redskins beat the Giants, I'm thinking, wow,
I actually didn't realize that.
Washington is in first place at 5-6.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that it was actually they were still only a game behind. Really?
They're
Wow. Yeah, I guess
one
that is
game
right.
back at 4-7.
Jeez.
I know. Washington at 5-6 is in first place. The downside for the Eagles, though, is they lose the tiebreaker right now to Washington.
Yeah, they've got to. If they have any chance left, they've got to win those divisional matchups.
They have to win the last 2 weeks. They almost have to. And unfortunately,
and to be honest, they probably need to win out, or at least get 8-8. But I mean, I think you're really wanting to win
that's
out.
going to be very difficult considering 2 of their next 3 opponents are New England and Arizona. Not good.
Not at all.
I expect them to get blown out. Well, maybe not. They'll probably lose by double digits next week at New England because the Patriots are angry. First, they're coming off their first loss of the season. The whole Gronkowski thing now, and Brady's with the defenseless receivers or whatever. So they're probably not a happy camper, and unfortunately, I think that anger is going to get taken out on Philly. Not that Philly's been any good. Not, even if New England wasn't angry, Philly can't stop them anyway. It'll be interesting though to see Eric Rowe start, so we'll see how he does. But yeah, and I mean, here's how this game lost a lot of luster. This was going to be the national game at 4:25. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are going to be there. Well, now they moved Carolina and New Orleans to 4:25, and Buck and Aikman are going to be there, while Philly New England gets the number 2 crew of Tom Brenneman. And oh, by the way, that story about the referees that got pulled from the Sunday night game, guess what game they were working now?
Really?
They got shipped to the New England game.
Oh, jeez. Of course. It's amazing how that works.
Lovely NFL referee.
It's just so shady. It's so shady.
Oh, but they're doing an extraordinary job, according to Roger Goodell. Yeah, well.
Yeah. None if you ask anyone else.
Yeah. I think he almost kind of had to say that. But, yeah, so, I mean, you take those two games because I don't see them beating Arizona either, even at home, because Arizona's just so good right now.
Yeah,
So
they're
that
so
right
explosive.
there. What's that?
They're just so explosive.
They really are. I don't see how Philly can stop them. So that right there is 9 losses. So at that point, you're almost hoping that you win the division at 7-9, which means you have to beat the Giants and the Redskins. Now, at least if they beat the Giants, that's a season sweep. And then should they beat Washington, at least that puts them at, I think, 4-2 in the division, which should be enough.
Those are winnable games. I mean, it's not like those are great teams. So, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be tough, but it wouldn't shock me, though, if the winner of this division 7-9. It really wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't. I mean, you look at the remaining schedules of some of the teams. I mean, the Giants still have to play Carolina. They still have to play New England or Minnesota. So it's very possible, that 7-9 is going to win this division. When we thought the AFC South was going to be at 7-9, they're leading right now at 6-5, and they currently have 2 playoff teams. We were sitting here a few weeks ago saying the South is the worst division in football. They right now would have 2 playoff teams if the season ended today. Go figure.
Yeah, I will say, though, I mean, the Falcons are hanging on by a thread. They've lost 5 straight games. That is not a good team right now. I think they're probably going to miss the playoffs, in my opinion. I think Seattle and I don't really know. I mean, it's hard to find that 6th team that's playing well besides Atlanta. So maybe they do hold on, but I don't know, man. I just get bad vibes from them.
Well, don't forget too. You're probably looking at 2 the wild card coming out of the North too. So
yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so it'll be either Seattle or Atlanta, I think. I'm definitely taking Seattle then.
And I mean, they're probably going to be a team that if they do make the playoffs, they're going to be a tough team to beat. Yeah.
Yep. Watch out for them.
You know, they would obviously have the swagger of getting into the playoffs. They're the defending champs, so they know. Well, defending conference champs, so they know how to deal with the pressure.
And also, we saw it against Pittsburgh. That's a team that rallied to beat a good team, although it was at home. But hey, don't disrespect them. They're still a really good team. They're still very talented, even though they're not as good as they were. It's still a team that you don't want to face in the playoffs. I don't want any part of them if I'm another team.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, and especially if they can somehow climb to that 5 seed and have to face the NFC East champ. Whew.
Yep.
Look out.
Absolutely. No, totally with you.
And then, on the AFC side, like I said, the Colts and Texans tied at 6-5. They right now would both be in the playoffs. How about that? Will it hold up? I don't know. I think Pittsburgh is still a strong team, but they have a tough schedule though down the stretch to the Steelers. They have 2 home games left, but they come against the Colts and the Broncos, which is tough. And then they still have all 3 of their road division games among the last 4 weeks. So you talk about backloaded division schedule, all in a row, especially at Cincinnati. If the Bengals win this week and then beat the Steelers in 2 weeks, there's your division. Division race is over. The Steelers just have to hope for a playoff spot, and with the way Kansas City is playing, I think you have to give them the nod for one of the wild card spots. So that just leaves room for one more team. So are you looking at Pittsburgh? Is it Houston, Buffalo? It's tough to say. I mean, I still think Pittsburgh, even though they do have road division games, Baltimore is, without Joe Flacco, I can't see them doing much. And then obviously Cleveland, by week 17, Cleveland will shut it down anyway. So those are definitely 2 winnable games the last 2 weeks of the season. So I could definitely see Pittsburgh still sneaking in there, getting one of those playoff spots.
Yeah, it should be crazy. I mean, I was looking at the numbers for an article that I did, and I believe it was Now the numbers dipped a week ago. I think it was 18 teams were within one game of 500. I think that's dipped down to 13 teams since last week. But I mean, that still means that there's a lot of teams in the thick of things that can make an impact here. Whether it's them themselves making a move toward the playoffs, or it's another team that they're knocking out. I mean, that's dangerous. You don't know every week. I mean, you could lose easily every week if you're a contender trying to make your way in. You've got to play a good game, or else that's just how much parity there is in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, here we are entering week 13. No eliminations yet. No playoff spots have been clinched. But we are very close. Two teams can actually clinch their division this week. The Panthers, all they have to do is win, and they clinch the South. Patriots, I'm trying to think if they need the Jets to lose. Obviously coupled with a win, but the Patriots can clinch the East this week. So it's starting to come into shape a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, even though no spots have officially been clinched, I think we can safely assume a handful of teams are going to be in the playoffs. Like in the NFC, obviously Carolina is going to be there. I think Arizona, barring something catastrophic happening, I think Arizona is going to be in the playoffs. And you're probably looking at the two North teams getting in at this point too, Green Bay and Minnesota. And then, of course, whoever comes out of the East. So really, like we just talked about before, it may be just, one spot really up for grabs in the NFC, and you're probably only looking at Seattle, Atlanta, maybe Tampa, maybe the Giants in play. So it's, not a lot of wiggle room there, not a lot of margin for error for some of these teams.
Nope, not at all.
And in the AFC, New England, obviously, Cincy, Denver are obviously going to get in. And then someone from the South, probably Indy. And then, again, KC, because the Chiefs, I glanced at their schedule, they actually don't, of their 5 remaining games, they don't play a single team even at 500, let alone over 500. The best record.
And their story's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like the anti-Falcons.
They are, yeah,
Unbelievable. I'd written them off. I thought, hey, okay, season's done for them.
I think a lot of people, at 1-5, it's, you don't usually see teams.
Broncos starting out obviously 10-0. I mean, I'm stunned. You just don't see that. That is so rare to see in football, a team to just turn around like that. And the Texans kind of did the same thing since being blown out at Miami. You mentioned that the Colts probably win that division. I agree with you. But the fact that the Texans are tied with them record-wise is shocking. Absolutely shocking.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. And, obviously the NFL was watching and kind of rewarded the Texans a bit because they actually flexed the Texans game against the Patriots in Week 14 to Sunday night.
Oh, interesting. I didn't see that.
Yeah, the Texans' home game against the Patriots in 2 weeks will actually now be the Sunday night game. I mean, they had to get rid of the primetime game that was in there. It was originally going to be Seattle at Baltimore. And
yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, obviously...
No one wants to see that.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle, they're playing well, but obviously you had to yank Baltimore.
Yeah. Last week was... And we got lucky that the game of two bad teams, the Browns and Ravens, was a great game. And it was such a Cleveland way to lose Monday.
It really was.
I had my best friend called me right after that happened, and he was just like, "You gotta be blanking kidding me." And I was like, "Dude, all you can do is just laugh at that." I was like, "That is so Cleveland. You can't script that. Unbelievable." Here's the good thing, Browns fans. I still think you're the odds-on favorite to get the number 1 pick. I know not right now. I think the Titans are slated to get the number 1 pick, but I think Cleveland ends up getting that pick. Mm-hmm. And then you can change your franchise. I know Cleveland hasn't drafted well, but hey, it'll happen eventually, whether it's Joey Bosa, whether it's someone else. It could be worse. I mean, Yeah,
It can only get better, I think, at this point for them.
yeah, it's a talented roster too. That's the shame of it. I think at least I think it's a talented roster. They have just no cohesion throughout that front office and coaching staff for whatever reason, and maybe they end up blowing it up too. I guess that's a possibility.
And I actually wrote a little bit about the remaining schedules between the Browns and the Titans. The Browns' schedule down the stretch is brutal.
Yeah.
They still have to play Pittsburgh. They still have to play Seattle. They still have to play Cincinnati. They very well could lose the rest of their games and finish 2-14. Whereas Tennessee, they have some tough games, but their schedule is nowhere near as tough as the Browns' remaining schedule. In fact, I think this week is actually a winnable game for the Titans at home against the Jaguars. And if they do, that puts Cleveland right in the driver's seat for that top pick.
And it's funny because you see this happen every couple of years. Get toward the end of the season, all the team has to do is lose out. But guess what? It's not that simple when you're playing and you're trying to keep a job and you're trying to earn that next paycheck. And again, you don't want players. I think the worst thing you could ever say about a player is that he quit or that he tanked. And you should never expect an athlete to do that. And I'm not saying they should do that, but as far as the team perspective, it's probably the best thing for the team. So it's a tough spot. People are fighting for jobs, even coaches. Mike Mularkey wants that job. He wants that. He doesn't want to give that job up at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So it makes it very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Tampa Bay last year. Going into Week 17, it was like, okay, all they have to do is lose, and they have the number 1 pick.
Yep.
And
that's simple.
For how much of the game were they actually beating the Saints?
Yep.
Like, it actually looked like they were going to win the game and hand the top pick over to Tennessee. And just imagine, let's picture that for a second. Just imagine what would have happened if Tampa Bay had won that game. Tennessee would have sat at the number 1 pick. They probably take Winston.
Yep.
And the Buccaneers probably take Mariota.
Yep.
I can just picture. Could Tennessee? I was trying to picture how Winston could have played in Tennessee. That'd have been very interesting to watch, And let's say like the rest of the draft happens, nothing else changes. So like say Winston's there and you still have, I'm drawing a blank on his name. This isn't good. The 2nd round pick.
For who?
Dorial Green-Beckham.
Oh, Dorial Green, yeah.
Yeah. So you have Winston throwing the Green-Beckham. You've got David Cobb in the backfield. Well, Cobb got hurt, but you have him and, whoever, insert running back here because they've gone through about 4 running backs.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting to see if the roles were reversed there. And then you would have had Mariota throwing to Vincent Jackson. That'd have been pretty interesting, but I think it's going to work out for both sides. So, I mean, you're obviously seeing the results for Tampa Bay with Winston. I think Mariota's going to eventually get it together.
Yeah, he doesn't have much help around him.
He doesn't. I mean, that's still a bad roster.
Yeah, it's a really bad offensive line. Although I think Winston has clearly shown why he was the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's been close, and I published an article actually before the show with my rookie rankings for the week, and I mean, I even stated it, and I say Winston's just far and away, and it's nothing against Mariota. Nothing Mariota could do. It's just a matter of Winston he's already adjusted to the NFL, and he's playing some pretty good football right now.
And I feel bad right now for people who are like, oh well, the stuff Winston did in college, he.
Yeah, well.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I guess kind of his like immaturity or whatever.
Yeah, people are so. I don't know. It's weird with him.
And then of course, the Week 1 debacle. Well, that's why an NFL career is a lot longer than 1 game.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure he's played a little bit better.
Oh yeah.
Ever since Week 1.
Oh yeah, completely different player. Which is what you expect. You expect that growth from a number 1 pick over the course of time.
And maybe it was just first game jitters. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and I think that was part of it too. Is we saw that in the preseason as well. For his first game, I think it was against Minnesota. He was airmailing all those passes. Just you could tell the guy was nervous, And it's a normal human response. So, but yeah, I think he's doing perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of jumps, especially as guys get healthy into 2016. This rookie class, I don't think has been overly that good, but there's been a lot of guys kind of hurt, banged up, not been on the field. I think a lot of these guys need an off season to kind of bulk up, adjust to the NFL. I just think in general, rookie expectations are a little high. And you generally see that leap between their first and second, and then second to third year. And then, of course, throughout the course of time as well. But, that's where you really want guys to prove that they belong in the NFL, is that really second and third year.
Yeah, and I keep going back to 2012. Like, when we talk about rookie quarterbacks, I think some of us are still kind of spoiled by Andrew Luck when he came out of Stanford, and even Robert Griffin to some extent coming out of Baylor. Like, we expect these top-notch quarterback prospects, or we're looking for these top-notch quarterback prospects, but it's not going to happen. You can't go out and expect to find Andrew Luck every single year.
And even he had his negatives. I mean, he was a guy that, and he's still like that. He turns the ball over a lot. And, hey, every guy has quote-unquote flaws. I mean, no one's perfect. I just think we're a little too critical, I think, on quarterbacks, too, in general.
I mean, heck, look at what we're seeing with Aaron Rodgers. This is like un-Aaron Rodgers-like of him.
Yep.
But I guess in a way he's kind of showing he's human, too.
Yep. And he needs great weapons around him, and he needs a great offensive line just like everyone else. And that's okay. It doesn't mean he's a lesser quarterback. Doesn't mean anything like that. Just means that, hey, it's a team game and you have to have good players. That's the point of the game, is to win. And you win by having good players and good coaching.
And yeah, but like I said, I think we're kind of spoiled, especially, and we're definitely in a world where if you pick a quarterback high, you're basically almost forced to start him early because that's kind of become the expectation. And unfortunately for a lot of these rookie quarterbacks, it's hurt them.
Yep.
It hurt guys like Jake Locker. It hurt guys like Blaine Gabbert. Obviously for some quarterbacks, they were ready to go out day one, but, sometimes you have to be a little bit patient. Aaron Rodgers is a good example of a guy that sat a couple of years, and now he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Carson Palmer is another example. The Bengals took him number 1 overall, but he didn't play for, a year or two, I think?
Oh, Rodgers?
Carson Palmer.
Oh, Palmer. Yeah, no, he didn't play for 1 year. 1 year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember who the quarterback was.
Oh, it was John Kitna.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Our boy John Kitna.
Yeah, good name there.
I remember him. He had some...
He's an interesting cat.
He carved out a good career in the NFL.
Yeah, very unique player. I always liked him.
Guys like him and Sean Hill.
Jeff Garcia, another similar type of player.
Hey, I remember when Jeff Garcia led the Eagles to the playoffs after McNabb tore his ACL.
Yep.
That was a fun time. So let's talk a little bit about this week's game, shall we?
Sure.
God, week 13 already. I can't believe it. Some of the games of note, Packers-Lions should be a very interesting game tomorrow, and it actually should be a good Thursday game, only because these teams have actually had a full week to prepare for this game. It's not a short week. It's not a short week Thursday game like we're used to. These teams, of course, both played on Thanksgiving. Packers looking for revenge, surprisingly, after losing at home to the Lions. But am I crazy for thinking the Lions can actually spring another upset with how they've been playing of late and the Packers kind of stumbling a bit?
No, they're playing good football right now. Packers are playing terrible football. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, as weird as that sounds. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know how you can expect anything out of this Packers team. I thought they were back a week ago, and then they put another stinker out there. I don't know who this team is, and I think that's the worst thing you can say with a month left in the season.
Yeah, I mean, Very unfortunate for the Packers, and very surprising to see them lose at home to Chicago on the day that they retire Brett Favre's number. Very surprising. And I've said, like, I thought Green Bay would get it together by the playoffs, but, I mean, 5 weeks to go.
Yep.
Let's see something a little bit here before we actually feel confident. It's why I'm thinking more and more that Arizona, to me, is the favorite right now in the NFC. I know Carolina's 11-0, people. I won't need to have my, before Twitter blows up on me and my notification saying, well, the Panthers are the best team and they're 11-0. I get that. I still think Arizona right now is the favorite to make it to the Super Bowl.
Yep, I agree. Wrote the same thing in my article today. 2 days ago. Wrote the same thing. And I'm sure the comments are brutal. But I don't read the comments.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Speaking of the NFC playoffs, potential preview actually this week is the Seahawks take on the Vikings. This would actually be, if the season ended today, this would actually be a wild card matchup, the Seahawks and the Vikings. And it's a fun matchup and an interesting matchup in the sense that we'll see how much this Vikings team has grown. They lead the North at 8-3, but now they welcome in a tough team in the Seahawks, who have been playing well of late. Can Teddy and company rise to the occasion and prove that they are they should be among the top teams in the NFC. I think Seattle is actually going to go into Minnesota and steal one here, because I don't know if the Vikings are ready to take that next step, at least not right now. Down the line, they definitely could be, but I don't know if their time is now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair question.
But what do you think? What's your take on this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, especially with Seattle, because you don't know defensively who they are. Are they? I don't think they're that dominant team that they were. But then again, is Minnesota the team that can punish them for not being that same team anymore? I don't know.
And I think they still have some injuries they're dealing with. Isn't Harrison Smith still out?
Yeah, he's still banged up.
So that's a tough loss for the Vikings.
Yeah, they're going to need him back for sure. I'd go with Minnesota just because I think that defensively they are all out of this world. And assuming Smith's back, and AP's been so good this year that I'm not going to go against him. They've got the home field advantage. I tell you what, though, if you ask me tomorrow, I might flip-flop that decision.
Yeah, this is going to be I think this is actually a pick-em right now in the Vegas lines.
Yeah, that would make sense to me.
So I think this is going to be a real good game, which helps, too, because there are a couple stinkers on the dock, but I guess that's to be expected. I mean, 49ers, Bears is a bit of a meh. Sorry to say, Ravens, Dolphins, meh.
Oh, terrible game. I don't want to watch that game at all.
Yeah. The Panthers, do they get to 12-0?
I think that they're going to lose just a random game somewhere. I don't know where. I don't know if they win this week. But
I mean, road division games are obviously tough. So
I don't see this team being an undefeated team, at the end of the season.
It would be real weird to think about if they actually pull this off. Because then we'll be sitting after the season going, how the hell did this Carolina Panthers team, with no semblance of a passing game, go 16-0?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't know, man. I just don't see it. I mean, maybe they win this week. Again, they're the better team. That's not the question, but I think they'll lay a stinker eventually. So I'll pick them to win, but I just wouldn't be surprised when they lose. I think it's a matter of when, not if.
Yeah. Just glancing some of the other games. Falcons-Buccaneers is going to be an interesting matchup. We'll see if the Falcons can can get off the schneid a little bit here and start getting back to their winning ways, especially now that they've lost their hold on a playoff spot. The Buccaneers coming off a loss to the Colts, but they're certainly still in the playoff hunt as well. The Battle of New York this week, the Jets and the Giants. That's always a fun matchup. Remember the last time these two teams met? That 99-yard touchdown by Victor Cruz?
Oh, yeah. I miss seeing him healthy, by the way. He's a fun player.
Yep. It's really a shame that he wasn't able to come back this season.
Yep.
I actually, in my fantasy draft, I actually took a stab on Cruz.
Oh, I did too.
Pretty late, like around round 12, because I'm thinking, well, he's my wide receiver 5, and you know, if he's healthy, then that's a downright steal.
No, I was with you. I was doing the same thing. Same thing in mind. So it's really funny that you said that.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully he's back healthy next year, because we missed the salsa dance, and it'll be really fun to watch this Giants offense with its full array of weapons. You know, I'd love to see a healthy Odell Beckham, a healthy Victor Cruz, and a healthy Ruben Randle, because I think that offense could be outstanding if all three of them are together.
Absolutely.
But I think they still got a shot to beat the Jets. The Jets have been up and down, but so have the Giants. So it's you never know. And kind of going back quick to your point, like about the Monday night game, isn't that always where we find the good games? Is when we see two bad teams play each other.
Yeah,
it's always where we see the barn burners.
No, you're right. I mean, that's how it seems like it works. It's just. It never fails, I suppose.
But yeah, so that should be an interesting game there. Colts Steelers on Sunday night should be a fun one. Definitely playoff implications there as well. I mean, loser drops to 6-6. And then Cowboys and Redskins on Monday night. Probably another edition of. Boy, we wish the NFL could flex out Monday games.
Yeah, I think that's one of the one I'm gonna be skipping. I don't think I want to watch that one.
And the Cowboys are only 2 games out in the division, amazingly. But without Tony Romo, I think you could stick a fork in the Cowboys season. I think they very well could be picking in the top 5 in the draft. I think right now they sit 3rd. Who'd have thought that going into the season? A lot of us thought Dallas was going to win the division. Now they're looking at a top 5 pick in the draft.
Well, I mean, it just seems like it's kind of like a lucky thing for them. They might still get a year or 2 out of Tony Romo depending on his health. I don't know if you can count on him. But hey, if any roster could use and immediately benefit from a top 5 pick, it's definitely that roster.
Imagine Joey Bosa on that Cowboys team. That'd be pretty sick.
Or even Vernon Hargreaves.
Yeah, Hargreaves would be a nice fit in Dallas. They could definitely use some corner help. I mean, I know they took a first-round corner last year, but
and they use Jones all over him. They've been using him at safety, linebacker, corner. They could definitely use another corner.
And that'd be a pretty solid combo, Byron Jones and Vernon Hargreaves.
Yeah, I'd like that.
So
I like that a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they end up going either.
But knowing Jerry Jones, you never know what direction he's
going to go. Yeah, that's true. Maybe even Jalen Ramsey and then move Byron Jones to cornerback full time.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you quick about Jalen Ramsey, because it seems like there's a lot of talk about him too. So yeah, hey, in a few weeks we'll be digging deep into these prospects and doing some mock drafts. So definitely getting excited for that. But yeah, so we'll see how Week 13 goes and the final weekend of the college football regular season. It's hard to believe we're saying that. Championship weekend in college football. At this time next week, the bowls will be set. We'll be talking the playoffs and possibly digging into some of these bowls. So, any final thoughts?
Should be a good week of football. I'm stuck to my couch this weekend. I'm going to be watching the championship games on college. NFL, I may be bouncing around a little bit. I really don't want to watch Miami and Baltimore. I
I
might
don't
just.
blame you. That's two mess teams.
Yeah, no,
Unfortunately.
for sure. So, hey, you know what? If your team stinks, welcome to the rest of the NFL because most of the rest of the NFL stinks this year. And hey, at least it's a good draft class. Should be a pretty good draft class at
Yeah.
least.
That's the thing. If your team stinks, the draft's only 5 months away. So, and they'll be here before you know it. And then the 2016 season is right around the corner, too. And, by the way, real quick, congratulations to the 76ers on their first win of the regular season. Let's give them a round of applause. That was great. Woo! Good job, Sixers.
Yep. And shout out to Jahlil Okafor, who's fighting dudes in the street.
Yes. 2-game suspension for Okafor. Way to go. That kills the celebration buzz very quickly.
At least they finally won.
Yeah, they finally won. It took beating another bad team to do it, but hey.
Hey, it doesn't matter. A win's a win.
A win is a win. That's right.
That's right. Doesn't have to be pretty.
And they're probably going to lose tonight against the Knicks. So 1-19. But so we got the win. Now let's just focus on tanking for another number 1 pick, so they can get someone like Ben Simmons or I don't know. I haven't really even dug into the NBA draft yet. I probably won't for a while. I really don't even dig into bracketology now until we get to January, because it's kind of pointless to do it now. Not too many games to go off of, and RPI is way out of whack. When a team like Valparaiso is number 1 in the RPI, it's either out of whack or too early in the season.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So, but in any event, I think that was a good solid hour. I'm gonna go enjoy my new books, Art of Smart Football and Take Your Eye Off the Ball 2.0. They didn't sponsor it, but I'll give them a free plug. Thank you, Pat Kerwin and Chris Brown, for the awesome work. And then, of course, Ian, check out his work at Draft Centric and follow him at NFL Film Study, because he's obviously a great NFL mind. That's why I have him here, and because he's just a good guy in general. And if you want to follow me, it's up to you. You can if you want to. You don't have to. In any event, thanks so much, guys, for listening. As always, we really do appreciate it. Enjoy the games this weekend. Until next time, for Ian Wharton, I'm your man, Bill Rossetti. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next time on GG. Take care, guys.